Hello, everyone, and welcome to Painless Universal Conversation with myself and Welsh. Today, we'll be talking about how do you overcome the financial pain. My guest today is Gemma Godfrey. She's a mother, she's gone through a divorce, and she's extremely successful. And she's gone through many, many challenges, but still managed to overcome them and still remain relevant. Gemma is a non-executive director, chair, and serial entrepreneur. She was the founder and CEO of an FCA authorized digital investment service, which was acquired by FTSE 250. She pioneers new technology and went on to launch a digital media business for News UK, part of the News Group. Now, a non-executive director of the National IFA Network, IWP. Gemma is also on boards of NASDAQ-listed Sustainable Energy Solution Company and various others. She's a business expert on ITV Good Morning Britain and an ambassador for the charity Surviving Economic Abuse. A former boardroom advisor to Arnold Schwarzenegger on The Apprentice. Gemma was an advisor to the UK government on its 10-year strategy to improve the nation's financial well-being. She's previously had head of investment strategy at a FTSE AIM Wealth Management. I am glad she's taken the time out to speak to us today because after this pandemic, so many people would have gone through financial pain, be affecting your health, your mental health, whatever stage of your life. She'll be talking to us how she's managed to overcome her pain and find her joy. Meet Gemma. Well, hello everyone and welcome to Painless Universal Conversation again with myself and Welsh. Today is all about financial pain and how you overcome pain of challenges of whether you've been through a divorce, you're having kids and building a business. My wonderful guest today is Gemma Godfrey. She'll be telling us about her own journey, how she's managed to build a business and sustain a career while going through a divorce. Meet Gemma. Gemma, thank you so much for joining me. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks so much for having me here today. Thank you.
I'm really, really delighted because I think, anyone who reads your story will see you as this amazingly successful woman, but not knowing what you've gone through behind the scene to get to where you are. And the reason I also wanted to talk to you is that, so many women there's that confidence issue. So many women want to be there, but not quite sure, can I really get there? Can I really go, break that barriers of the man-dominated world that we live in? Before we get into all of that, I have to ask you, who is Gemma?
Oh my God, that's actually a very deep question. And I'm going to start with, I'm a mum. I've got two
Mm.
amazing kids. They're everything. They're wonderful and kind to each other and funny. So I'm a mum, I'm a partner, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend. And then I guess I'd talk about, what I do, which is I am a board director. So I advise companies. I'm also, I provide them with advice to try and help them grow and solve their problems. And previously I was a serial entrepreneur. So I built two businesses. I use technology to disrupt finance, and I use technology also to disrupt the media industry as well. I advised government. I've had TV shows. And my background was as a scientist, so I've kind of seen, a few different industries. But I guess the thread that's linked everything I've done is to solve problems. I'm just really interested in trying to help improve people's lives.
That surprised me because you said your background is science and started with science. So many kids these days, especially girls, young girls, are not willing to go into that department, especially with the social media, all things coming out. People are not willing to go into that department. What led you to that science side? Where did you find the passion, and why did you think this is something I think I could do, and I'm going to stick to it?
It's really interesting because I went to an all-girls school, which I do think makes a difference, because we were just told we could do whatever we wanted to do. There was no comparison. I really wasn't aware of something being a female subject or a male subject or anything like that until I was much older. I had a really inspiring teacher when I was at school. He was my physics teacher, and when we used to go into the lessons every day, he'd be like, "So girls, do you want to know why the sky is blue?" Like, yes. Do you want to know why when you're in a lift you suddenly feel weightless? Yes. I mean, he just made it he made it very relevant. And the way that I saw, especially physics, was it's maths, which everyone understands how useful maths is, but it's maths applied to the real world, and it's maths used to solve problems. So I think that, but the funny thing is, I must say, when I went to university and I was choosing my subjects, I do remember thinking, there aren't that many girls that are doing this subject, but I remember thinking that actually was one of the reasons I did it, because I thought I want to be different, I want to stand out. And I remember when I was sitting there for my interview for Goldman Sachs, when I was interviewing for their internship, I was the only person there that wasn't studying economics. I've never, and actually it's carried on my whole career, I have never fitted the norm. I've never fitted into a box, but I've always used that as my advantage, because I look at things differently and I'll bring a fresh perspective. So yeah, so all the girls out there, seriously, please think about doing a STEM subject, because it is unbelievably useful, and it will really put you in a really good stead. Whatever you want to do, you don't have to be a scientist. You can use it for so many different things.
That's amazing, because I meet so many girls, and one of the first things they said, I'm so nervous about going to that path. I don't even know where that path would take me. I don't even know if I could get a job in that. But there you are telling us that, just believe in what you have, where your destiny lies. And if this is something you truly want, go for it. On that note, because I really have to dig into, because I really want any young girl listening and just so confused, because my mom is a science teacher, and she struggles with this. She struggles with getting the young girls to really understand science. When you were studying science and when you went to Gorman, were you a bit nervous about the stereotype of the world? I know you said you're confident, you always wanted this. Were you just a little bit nervous about, how do I fit in? How do I do this job when I'm the only one in the room making that decision? How did you deal with it?
Okay, yes, of course, absolutely. You know what, I must say, I think I was a bit naive, when I applied to Goldman, because I actually only applied there. It wasn't like I did lots of different applications. So I was like, I'm going to try it. If I get it, great. If not, it wasn't for me. And I just think, but when I got it, funny enough, I was confident until I got it. And then as soon as they wanted me, I was like, wait a minute, you get imposter syndrome. Why do they want me? Clearly they've made a mistake. And so actually they were very, very good. And what they did is, over the holidays, before you started, they sent out loads of books, loads of recommendations of things to study. So actually, there is a way to build your confidence. And I think that's to try and, like, as much as you can, not become an expert, but really try hard to learn as much as you can. There's a really good saying I remember hearing again early in my career, which is knowledge is power. And it sounds really cliche, but I wasn't going to sit there. I wasn't going to just win the confidence just by, sitting in a room, believing in myself. I did it by, I read as many books as I could. I swatted up as much as I could. And then I just kind of relied on that until, if I could understand. And it's funny, I did a TED talk about this, about how we hide behind jargon in our language and we make things confusing unnecessarily if we feel insecure. But I also think, let's flip it on its head. That's also a way to potentially, in the very first instance, when you really are out of your depth, how you can get a bit more secure, which is just understanding the lingo, understanding the language, really delving into it. Reading the FT, reading, watching the CNBC or Bloomberg and things like that. And I just fully immersed myself so that I had a level of understanding. So on day one, even though I was a fish out of water, it wasn't so obvious. And it's like, fake it until you make it. I faked it. And then, bit by bit. And the funny thing is that, when you're truly confident, it's when you don't need the jargon, it's when you don't need any of that and you can simplify it. But in the beginning, use what you can. But I just think everybody, okay, here's a lesson to pass on. Actually, and I learned this from Eric Schmidt at Davos. Okay, right. Yeah, no, this is actually, I've never said this before. I was at the World Economic Forum at a party, and I was standing there completely out of my depth. There were world leaders around me. And I remember in my head, I kept saying to myself, Gemma, just say hello to somebody. Just do it. Just say hello. Just start talking. So I turned around and I went, hello. And I looked up and there was Eric Schmidt from Google. And I was like, okay. And I just said to him, what's your advice? This is my first Davos. What's your advice? And he said, his advice was, there is always, no matter how high you get, there is always a door that's closed to you. And I loved that advice, which is, it doesn't matter either how junior or how senior you are. You never feel like you've got there. There's always, you always feel like there's more to learn, or there's, another hierarchy, or there's another whatever. So everyone's in the same boat. So if you're starting off in your career and you're thinking, I want to go into finance, but I don't have that background, everyone knows more than me. Everyone feels like there are other people that know more than them.
That's true. That is so true. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is absolutely true, because sometimes you feel, oh my goodness, am I doing it right? Or is this the right path I'm going on? But it is true. And thank you so much. That is amazing. But you also had this money influence. You've always had this money management influence from an early age. What led that on? Because this is something that's if you follow your career, if someone looks back at it and reading your bio, you do a lot of money management. What led you on that path?
Okay, that's my dad. Let's keep it simple. That's my dad. So my dad was in the industry for years, and so it's me and my sister growing up, and I was, the eldest child, and he just used to speak to me about business the whole time. So he was a partner at an accountancy firm, and he set up their wealth department, their wealth management business, and actually spun it out. Then it got bought back. Anyway, and it's funny because I always thought of myself as very corporate minded, but actually I've worked out. I've basically, very much followed my dad's career, and I've also got a great granddad that was also, a couple of them were very entrepreneurial. So I guess it must be in the blood, but really he talked to me about it. And again, I come back to this point of, thank goodness, when we're younger, we're not aware of sexism. We're not aware of these limitations and boundaries. There was my dad talking to me about finance. Well, why shouldn't I know about it? So he, as I said, he was focused on money management. And I think for him, again, what he really enjoyed about it is he was helping his clients. He was helping solve their needs, and that, they had financial needs. And I think what I also learned very early on is that money underlies everything. So the reason I went into finance is because if you really want to make a difference in someone's life, if you think about it, when do I start a family? Where can I afford to live? When can I afford to buy a property? Can I escape my marriage? Can I retire early? All these major decisions in life are all really determined by having the money to do it. And so, I mean, look, at that stage, you talk about money management, it started off as wealth management. So it's people that already had, sufficient amount of money. But again, same thing, people still have the same problems, to be able to make sure that they're looking after their children, looking after the ones that they love. So I kind of learned the importance of how important money management is to people's lives through him. And then I think the way that I followed it in my career is just make it more and more mainstream and just trying to broaden it out so that it wasn't just restricted to people that had wealth, but actually anybody. And it's really important that everybody is given the opportunity to be able to start to put away some money and start to build it, because otherwise how do you improve your lifestyle?
That is, yeah. We forget that actually money is the root of all. It's the string for the next decision you make. When I made my introduction, I started with, one thing I said is that there is Gemma. She was going through a divorce, and why going through a divorce and raising two kids? Not just were you doing that, you decided to start a company. You said, I'm not letting my divorce pain stop me. I'm not letting the pain of having to raise my kids stop me. And this is something that so many people face when they're going through a hard time in life. It gives them that barrier. Either you say, I'm absolutely stopping, I'm not going ahead with anything because I have a mind block. But for you, that gave you that extra courage to keep going. And I think about it and I say, during my darkest time, mine might be my chronic illness pain. I always find the strength to do other things because I use that time to reflect and do other things. I want to know what gave you your strength while you were going through this divorce and raising your kids to build a company. How did you do that?
It's a really good question. And just to kind of clarify in terms of the timeline, what happened was I was selling my first business when I was going through the divorce. And then you're right, when I set up my next business, those things are still going on in the background. So I think, it's interesting because I also look back and I think I'm a completely different person from who I was before the divorce. And I think, I am much stronger. I've got stronger boundaries. I'm really, really focused on protecting my kids and doing what's right for them and standing up for them in a way that, you do get pushed around, I think a bit, I used to get pushed around quite a bit. Yeah. So I think all of those things are really important. So I think I've definitely come out stronger, and I definitely am much more certain on what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and caring less about what people think and all these barriers. And I think that was the key thing, is that, look, I was selling the business and that was going on anyway. And therefore it was quite good. I was in a very fortunate position. I remember thinking at the time, especially it was such a shock to me, what I went through. It was such a shock. And there were certain days, and I remember thinking this thing of, oh my goodness, I'm actually putting one foot in front of the other. Look at me. I'm like, I'm actually literally, I can't believe, like I was on the underground going, I can't believe I'm walking. Like there are so many people that would actually, I completely would just be under the covers. I'm not getting out. But thank goodness I had that, because it was what they actually both did is they both tempered each other. So actually having the distraction of work, and it was a distraction, you only really, I think deal with your issues, later on, as you start to process them. So at the time it got me out, gave me a different focus. But interestingly, what I was going through in my personal life, it made me realize, And keep in mind, selling my business was a massive deal. And it was unbelievably one of the most stressful things I've ever gone through. It was, as you can imagine, there are times when, 5 people want to buy your business, then no one, then 3, and at the same time, you're managing an entire team of people whose livelihoods are depending on you. And it was a startup. So the capital was going down and down because we had to give this time for the deal to go through. And so there's a huge amount of pressure and due diligence. The business I sold my business to was a publicly listed organization. So the due diligence is incredibly,
that is another level.
And just to give a shout out as well, PwC were the corporate financiers and they were amazing. But, the amount of work that kind of went into it was insane. But actually going through something personal like that, it made me think, this doesn't matter. This doesn't, like I said, it matters people's livelihoods. I wanted it to be successful, and we did, and we powered through. But it meant that, funnily enough, it tempered the stress with that, because I was like, actually, what really matters in life are the people that you love and looking after the people that you love. And so both of them. And then when I was going through the divorce, provided a bit of a distraction. So I think actually both of them together, funnily enough. And the important lesson that I did learn, though, and again, one of the many lessons I learned through the divorce was the importance of a difference of leadership, and telling my team, I used to be a big believer in personal life, professional life, 2 separate things.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. But I had to tell my team, because they were looking at my face, at what was going on in my face every day to work out, is the deal going through? Is it not? What's happening? My job's, and I had to tell them, guys, I'm going through a divorce, so I'm going to look sad one day. It might not be to do with that. It might be to do with, I don't know, who's going to get the crockery or whatever it is. There are other things in play that aren't necessarily to do with the deal. And it meant that my team really rallied around me. It meant that people stepped up. It meant that there was a huge amount of empathy with, my lawyers and, as I said, the corporate financiers as well. And we really got the deal done in the best way possible. And again, amazing shareholders. It was a really, really good team effort. So I think the thing actually powering through that was just about powering through. That was, I have no choice. I want to look after my children. I want to look after my team. I want to do what's right by my shareholders. And I got through it. And then, it helped me be stronger. And then setting up a new business, I was like onwards and upwards, because, I think unfortunately we're not in an era where, families have only one person that's financially responsible for the kids. A lot of times it's 2, and I have financial responsibilities for my kids. And I didn't have the not luxury, but the ability to stop. When I set up, another little anecdote, when I set up that business, and I just closed my funding round, and I just had people invest millions of pounds into my business, I gave birth to my second child. And so people are like, how much time did you take off? And again, first child, I took off time. If you can take off time, it's absolutely, having that bond is really, really important. But I was a single founder. So there was no one else that I could kind of delegate to. So I had my daughter on the 30th of December. I think I had that Monday off, and I was then back on the emails. And it's just obviously, actually that's why the pandemic's been so good, to spend so much time with my kids and everything. But I just think, having that focus on, why am I doing it? I'm doing it for them. I really care about them. It's about looking after the people that I really love. And also, look, I say this now because I've come through it, but just taking the experience and also looking back going, I am a different person, and I am much, much stronger because of it. And I don't take crap the way that I used to. And I will stand up for what's right, and I will protect those children. And the businesses that I advise, I will give the advice that I believe is the right thing to give. I'm not going to be shy about it. So I don't know, hopefully everybody benefits.
That is so good, because so many people going through a hard time, especially with the pandemic. A lot of divorce happen, and a lot of people are not sure how to deal with it, how to manage and look after. But what I got from what you just said is that it doesn't matter. The most important thing is focus on what's important.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I also think, again, here, and if I can just give one message, this is a really, really important message that I wish I would have heard early on. Well, actually, it's kind of 2 messages. One is, it's going to be fine. It's going to be all right. And I think for everybody out there, it feels like it's the end of the world at the time. You will be fine. But I think really the message is, you're not alone. And I remember when I first started, I just thought, am I the only person of my friends that's going through this? Am I all alone? And actually, you're not alone. And what I did, again, another thing that helped get me through all of this, is I reached out to a charity called Surviving Economic Abuse, because I just couldn't believe, what people go through when they get divorced. It's 51% of marriages end in divorce. Yeah. And so all the people that are watching that are in happy marriages, I really, really hope it works out. But this does affect a lot of people. And the fact that, people can mess with people's finances, they can, especially they mess with, the finances of looking after their own children to try and, be disruptive and things like that. It's just, these things shouldn't happen. The laws are changing. And again, that helped me, I think, focus anything I was going through to actually do some good. So if anybody else wants to get involved with a charity as well, I suggest, doing things like that is really, really helpful. But you're not alone. Anybody else that's out there, you're not alone. You will get through it. You'll be stronger for it. You'll be better for it, and you'll be doing the right thing for your kids as well. So
that is true. Yeah. And this leads me to my next question, because one of the things you also say is that when people underestimate you, work harder. and I think women in particular are always underestimated. It doesn't matter how hard a woman works. She always feels people might not be underestimating her, but she already has underestimated herself before she walked into the room. She's just believed that, okay, I'm not going to get this deal done, and this is never going to happen. I don't believe I'm good enough. Do you know why women feel this way? And how do we apply what your statement, which we says, when people underestimate you, work harder? How do we apply that statement to our daily lives?
Okay, all right. And I'm going to temper my comments because it's funny, because I think I felt like that for years, and I've kind of just changed. First, I think the first thing to say is anybody that feels that they're being underestimated, the first thing to say is it's not your fault. Okay, because I know, because we spend a lot of time, especially as you said, as women, or actually it's every gender, going, oh, I feel this way, or what have I done wrong, or why do I feel like this? Oh, I should be more confident. Stop that. It's actually because, okay, if I come back to finance has traditionally been men, grey hair, grey suits.
Yes.
And so the feeling of I don't fit in, of course you're not going to feel like you fit in. They're spouting out jargon. Of course you're going to feel, overwhelmed. So actually, the first thing is it's not you. Okay, it's not always you. So I just want to. But what do you do about it? So I think I spent the beginning bit of my career going, and it was a fantastic motivator. So there is a silver lining. Being underestimated. My God. If somebody thinks that, somebody thinks something wrong about me, if somebody thinks, I remember I was once in a meeting and someone turned to me and asked me you hear the story the whole time, but asked me to get about the tea. And I was like, I'm not here to get you tea. I'm actually here, around the boardroom table alongside you. It was for a charity, and we were there to manage the assets, and I'd done it for years. But I think this leads me on to the second thing, which is, so yes, okay, if you're underestimated, I wouldn't say if you're underestimated, work harder. It's more, if you're going to use it for anything, if you want to drive, or you're feeling a bit demotivated, use that to motivate you. Okay, use that to motivate you. If you're feeling a bit like put off and, what am I doing? If somebody's underestimating, it's a really good opportunity. It's a really good motivator to say, I'm going to achieve this to show you. So that's great. But if I actually answer a specific question, which is what happens if you're already working hard?
Yes.
Then it's a different answer. And again, this is, like I said, this has taken me years to learn, which is, if you are introduced to somebody and they underestimate you and they get you wrong and they just assume you're something else, the question I was asked was, who should feel embarrassed? Is it you, or is it that person? And it's that person. And it's that knowledge of, if you're doing what you're doing and you're working really hard and you're doing the best you can, that's enough. You are enough. That is enough. You're doing the best you can. And that person will realize it. Not that it matters what other people think, but that person will realize over time, and my goodness, they're going to feel like that guy that was sitting next to me that asked me to get the tea. As soon as the chairman turned around and said, Gemma, what do you think? And I was talking about the asset allocation and blah, 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 blah. He felt embarrassed. I didn't need to do anything. Didn't need to prove anything. So I think it's those two things. If you want it as a motivator, motivate it. You show them how great you are.
Yeah.
But you also don't need to.
That's true. That is very true, because I think that's something a lot of women go through. They just feel that they don't deserve to be in a position. They feel underestimated. So I think that drives their confidence. And when they go on maternity leave, they don't want to come back to work, because you just think, no one is appreciating my work and the effort I'm putting into this thing. So why should I keep going? And I think your answer really answers it. It's just about, you have to find your own confidence and just believe that you're good enough for this role and good enough for doing what you're doing. And financial well-being, I think you touched a lot about it. Financial well-being is the driver of everything we do, and almost everything we do in life is our financial well-being. And often people, I relate to your mental health and your physical health to your financial, because when your financial is not good, then you get to start, you worry a lot. You worry, where is the next money coming from? How do I manage my kids? Can you share how we can overcome some of these challenges of the financial to manage, to get our financial well-being back, our health check? How can we overcome these challenges to make our life better, especially now during the pandemic? A lot of people have lost jobs. I'm not quite sure, how do they, okay, I've lost my job. How do I get myself back on track that I can still look at someone in the face, I could still provide for my family and still get my health in check. What advice would you give someone who's going through that difficult time?
Yeah, look, and I think it's a really, really important question because you said people's livelihoods have been completely shattered during the pandemic. It's affected so many people. But funny, so, and I think sitting there going, right, I'm not doing anything. Now I need to completely, take a whole new look about my finances, go through everything. It is completely overwhelming. And just again, to make sure everybody really feels like they're heard and seen. I find it overwhelming. Okay, I'm in finance. And if somebody sat down to me and said, right, Gemma, go through all of your finances, completely change it all, start investing, do this, do that. I'd feel the same. I'd feel the same way. So do as I do, don't do as I say, don't do as I do. But anyway, and I think the important thing here is around making things bite-sized, and it's the same thing for anything. If I said to you, just go and I don't know, just go and look through on an app, go look at your banking app and just run through and see if there's anything that's going out. It can be small, it doesn't matter, but anything that's going out that you don't need anymore. And it's so often we sign up for freebies, like free subscriptions, and then all of a sudden it clicks over into a paid for subscription we don't even remember. Just go through that and just delete that. Boom, that's it, stage one. And I think it's all about, so a couple of things. Number one, make it manageable. So just bite size. What are the small, tiny things that you can start to do that will make you feel good? And then you're making progress, and then you're going to be willing to do the next few steps. Mm-hmm. And then I also think it's about making sure that it has purpose. And actually, funny enough, I was taught this just it's like a productivity hack, which is if you've got your to-do list, that's very hard to stick to. But if you have a to-do list and next to each item, you say why it's important. I'm doing this to look after my children. I'm doing this because I want to have a home that I love. I'm doing this because I, want to progress in my career. Then all of a sudden, everything that you've got on your list, you want to do it, and it's motivating. So I think when it comes to going over your finances, first we'll start with why are you doing this? Just why are you doing this? Is it because you want to look after your family? Is it because you want a better lifestyle? Is it because you want to sleep well at night? And we talk about financial well-being, and I like the word well-being because this isn't about save a bit of money on your gas bill. This is about actually your mental health. And, money worries are the number one root of, issues of productivity at work. It really affects so many, and relationships. I mean, God, couples argue about money the whole time. So getting a hold of your money, like I said, it could be, I want a better relationship with my partner, whatever it is, use that to motivate you. And then look, the starting points are that obvious, start off with how much, savings you can make so that you're not spending as much money. Try and squirrel away some money. You should have at least 3 months of living expenses squirreled away, although I think the pandemic has shown us even that is often not enough. And then also, and this is a really important point, and if I can give people an analogy, it's like we're on a running machine. Okay, we're not standing still. Cash, okay, if you have £10 of cash today, in 10 years time, and it buys you, I don't know, let's say three cartons of orange juice. In 10 years time, it will buy you 1 carton of orange juice. It's not going to go as far. So you're actually fighting this battle. And so the best thing you can do is to start, if you have the stomach for it, is to start investing. And it sounds overwhelming, I know, but it doesn't have to be. There are really simple ways to do it. And ideally, and this is the best advice, do it £50 or £10, or rounding up your change. Do it with a small amount that you just don't care about. And I do think, from what I've seen, and it shouldn't be this way, as I said, because I think all the jargon and acronyms and everything that puts off women in finance, but I do see men much more often go, I'm just going to fling a bit of money in this, I'm going to bet on this match, I'm going to, they do try out things with their money a lot more. And I think, as I said, it's not because of women's nature. I think it's because of the way that finance has been male dominated anyway. But I think, just start investing, start trying to invest in very, very simple things with money that you don't mind losing. Try and get used to it and see how it works. And then over time, that's the best chance you have to watch your money grow.
That's true. You talk about money matters, bringing it into the mainstream. Both of us have kids. And I always think if we start early, the better. You said you started money management because your father got you into it. He was in the asset management, wealth businesses. And I think today's generation, most kids are losing out on that knowledge of understanding the importance of money, because most parents have not taken the time. Most parents we're always on the go. We're always so busy. We've got so much going on, and we forget to teach our children the basic, and that important too takes them a lot much longer. How do we get money management into mainstream, into our homes? into, you know, start early, start teaching our kids to understand and to love the importance of talking about money early. Because I think one of the barriers to success with money is that people are so afraid. There's sometimes even in a relationship, you're so afraid to have a discussion. Oh, how is this going? How is this not going? But I see with you, you're so open about it. How do we get this into the mainstream and get more kids and families talking about money management?
I mean, I think that's a really good point. And like, there are all these like little kind of tricks, you know, around, playing certain games with your kids. But I honestly, I think it does come down to, and I think the best thing that my parents did, that my dad did, was I was just around it. So he would just talk about it. He wouldn't dumb it down. He wouldn't, but I was just very aware of, the importance of money, what it meant in business and things like that. So I think, we don't tend to, money still is a bit of a taboo and people are uncomfortable talking about it. But within your own home, get comfortable talking about it. Like, oh, this is how much this costs. And where are our savings today? And how are things growing? And talking about the importance of it. And it's funny, I started talking to my kids around, why is it that money works? Money works because money is hard to get. Why do we need money? We need money to be able to live. And it's kind of having that dialogue around it, because what I really want to instill, and it's very hard with kids, and they have, my son and my daughter have very different personalities, but it's about telling the value of money. And it's so easy when kids are young and you love your kids and they ask for something and you give it to them. How much better is it for them to be saving up money, and they have it also teaches them patience. They save up money and they realize that actually this is how hard it is for them to be able to get the money to be able to, and I think there are tricks like, if kids have savings, what you could also do is every now and again you put in an extra 10p or an extra pounds, and you're like, wow, you've earned interest. See how beneficial it is. Your money is making more money. And there are things like that I think you can do. And then obviously allowing them, especially with like birthday money and things like that, what is it you want to buy with that money? And it's just getting them used to the fact that fortunately or unfortunately life costs money, and that's how important it is, and you need to have control over it, and you need to be doing the right things. But there are all these other things as well. I mean, there are like junior ISAs, there are all these products to try and help you start saving for your kids as well, and it'll encourage them to understand how it's growing, and that's where they can put their money away. But I think the first thing is just to be talking about it, really, and just get them to understand the value of money and the value of work, I think, as well.
Yeah. When Arnold Schwarzenegger called you and said, the team called you to come join the Celebrity Apprentice United States to be an advisor, how did you take it? Because you do this now. You're on television. You advise the UK government as well. You advise several companies, and then you're also a celebrity doing this for him. How did you take it, and what lessons did you learn from doing that role?
Okay, so first of all, can we please perpetuate that myth that I literally had a phone call from Arnold Schwarzenegger? I think that's the best image ever. I was sitting there one day, picked up the phone, and he told me to get to the chopper. I love that. Okay, but you're right. It was I got a call, and I didn't even get a call. It was, I think this is the first thing. I hopefully. Again, this comes back to working hard. Hopefully this is good news for other people out there. I worked so hard to get there. I remember I was pitching TV show ideas. I was flying out to LA. I mean, it started by flying to New York and then flying to LA and then networking. And then, as I said, just trying to work out different TV show ideas that, could try and fill a gap. And then, I managed to meet the right people. I sat down and interviewed, it was a whole big process. And during that time, because keep in mind, I was, relatively new to the world of, TV. I therefore, actually the same thing as I did with finance. Behind the scenes, I went for loads of training upon training, and making sure that I knew, don't swallow when you're on air. I mean, all these different things. It makes you look nervous. I mean, there's so many different tips and tricks. So so first of all, I mean, that took years. But when I landed that role, that was honestly, when I say bucket list, I mean, this is like a bucket list I never thought I had. I mean, it was just fantastic. And I think if I come down to what I learned from him, just watching him at work, and because it was so inspiring, is that he's just a phenomenal leader. And I think at that time I was running my first business, and I think it really just taught me the importance of listening to the people around you. Here is somebody who has dominated various industries. Obviously, there's politics, there's bodybuilding, there's Hollywood, there's property. I mean, he's just phenomenal. And yet he sat there and he listened and he collaborated and he worked together, and he tried to, he surrounded himself with also really, really smart people to try and make sure that, he was able to make the right decisions. And I just think that just taught me about how to be, I think it taught me about, the value of, how I could be a leader in a very different way, and a much more personable way. And yeah, I mean, it was just insane. I just absolutely loved it.
No, it's really. I saw it and I was really amazed how you what you do, and I read most of your interviews, and you truly you've inspired so many women out there. Our final question before I let you go is about, you've built businesses. So many women are trying so hard to build businesses, and you've raised funds as well. And this is and there's one thing building business, another thing raising the funds and seeing it through.
Yeah.
It's because a lot of women start and they can't see the business through because there's always these barriers of success, or not knowing how to access the market, or not knowing who to go for advice or consultancy. How did you do it? If you could just give a person, anyone, a woman or man advice who's looking to put their business out there, list their business out, but not sure what direction to go, how would you give it? This is
Oh, there's a massive question. And I am so passionate about that. And funny enough, I'm thinking about creating lots more content around that, because it's, how do you come up with the right business idea? How do you get the financing? How do you build a team? How do you? I mean, there are so many different facets to that. And obviously, I ran a business and it changed direction a few times. And I think the thing I would say, let me just try and give a couple of really useful, the most useful lessons I learned. I mean, the first thing is about testing. Is that when I started my business, I was hugely embarrassed, and I didn't want to tell anyone what I was doing. I was protective. I was also wasn't sure if it was the right idea. And so, I didn't like talking about it. So the first thing I did is actually go out and do lots of customer testing, because it's all very well what I thought people wanted, and you can come up with the best idea, and it's great for people out there that think they've got a great idea. Good, test it. Before you build it, test it, and it'll also build your confidence, because the more people that turn around and go, yes, this is a good idea, or actually, I like that, but there's this part of it, or so we had, I want to, yes, I understand about, investing a few pounds here and there, but I've got £5,000 here, or yes, I like that, but I don't like your image of kids, that's alienating for me. And all these things were so valuable, and it meant that I got more and more confidence in the business as well, in the direction I was going in. Because when it comes to raising money, coming onto the money point, everyone has a difference of opinion, and I would say it's like dating, because it's like trying to find your perfect match. You are not going to be right for everyone. Everyone's not going to be right for you. And I think I spent a lot of time trying to hone my business proposition in for different investors, and they don't know your business like you do. So I think take the advice, but ultimately, if somebody doesn't want to invest, it's usually because they're the wrong match. And I'll give you a tangible example of this, because I do think being a woman, it definitely was harder to raise finance, because I think and there were loads of female focused VCs out there, and they were so risk averse, and it wasn't working. And I remember I went to go and see one big investor, and I went with a guy that was going to invest, and he was sitting next to me, and he was introducing, but he was new to the business. He'd only just decided, yes, he'd like to invest in the business. And what was really funny was I was sitting opposite these guys, and like I said, sitting next to somebody who had only just got to know the business, versus me, who is the CEO, runs it. And they asked all the questions to him. So basically, I walked out of the meeting, and I think I had another meeting at the time when I was raising money. I was pregnant, and they kept looking at my belly, and oh, what are you going to do about that? And I just think it just selects them out. I was like, thank you so much. It's so obvious I don't want to work with you. And when I was selling my business, again, never talk about this, and I'm never going to say who it is, but I remember I was selling my business. I was selling technology. And we were, quite far down the line, and they turned around to me and said, well, what's your childcare like? And I was like, you're buying technology and team, and I've already had 2 kids, and the whole thing's irrelevant. But so I think the reason for telling those anecdotes is that anybody that's raising finance, you're not alone. It's really hard, and not everybody's going to get it, and that's okay. And finding the right person to invest in your business, you want them to get it, because it's like a marriage. Like, you are there through the journey. They are there backing you, and you want them to have the same goals that you do, so that when you decide to do something, they're fully backing you as well. So look, I think, in terms of business idea, go out and test it. In terms of funding, do also have more confidence in yourself. I remember spending a lot of time trying to find people to help me raise capital. But when it came down to it, everyone wants to speak to you as the person that's running the business. And which I found really interesting. And actually, your ability to get good investors on board, and that when they get the business, when they understand it. I was very fortunate. I had somebody come on board. He referred other investors as well to invest. And then all of a sudden it's a virtuous circle. But it's not easy. You can do it, and take all the knockbacks. And I think what I did was, another cheat sheet. is I took any time there was a knockback, I'd use it, I'd document it, and I'd use it going forward, either to fix the issue or to know how to respond to it better. And actually, last thing, I'm definitely going to do more content on this. I think, and I was taught this by my COO, there is a huge amount of value in saying I don't know. And I didn't, so in the beginning, you know, when somebody was thinking about investing in my business, I would want to say to them, I have all the answers. I'm a wonderful CEO. I have all the answers. The business is perfect. Please give us your money. Please trust me with your money. And towards the end, I'd say, no, look, this is something I don't know. We're going to figure it out. And this is how we're going to figure it out. Or I'm not the right person for that, but I'm surrounding myself with the right people. And actually just that humility and actually the authenticity of, I do not have all the answers, but I'm going to work so hard to protect your investment and do what's right for the business and get to the right people to get the right answers. It lands a lot better. So, definitely going to do some videos on that.
I definitely need to do a Instagram live with you, because this is truly phenomenal. I mean, you just have, and so many people are desperate for answers like this, because they're in this process, especially after the pandemic. People are looking to start businesses but not sure how to go about it. They have great ideas, but where do you start? I'm so glad that you took the time out to share this little cheat sheet with me. And Gemma, thank you for your time. This is truly amazing to spend this time with you and go through your journey and how you've overcome your own challenges, but still being very successful with what you're doing. Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you very much.